Okay, well, an album that was not your album of the week, but we still have 2 to cover, guys. Sade, Diamond Life. Matt, numbers?
So Sade's Diamond Life comes in at number 137 in the 1980s on Best Ever Albums. Number 17 in 1984. Number 897 of all time. It is Sade's highest rated album on Best Ever Albums. And she comes in at number 431 in overall artist rankings on Best Ever Albums. And this is the other album that made Rolling Stone's list, and this comes in at number 200.
Wow. Hi.
Yep. Yeah. So let's start off with "Smooth Operator," which is the song I was hoping was on this because that was I remember that song being omnipresent when I was a kid, and on the radio. My parents, my dad in particular, not huge music people, but whatever radio station he would have on, I remember hearing this a lot in the 1980s. And I had no idea who it was or anything like that. But so I liked that. I liked the song. It starts off. It reminded me the beginning of that reminded me of what is it? Steely Dan's "Do It Again." I think it was like it's got the it was like a Congo drum kind of and I was like, oh, that's how it starts. So this album, it was a little palate cleanser. So definitely the most different genre, I would say, of the other ones. It's kind of those are more like indie rock, kind of sounds, and this is more of your R&B. It's jazzy, right? The saxophone's very jazzy, very smooth. Not very little edge, probably no edge at all. Very produced, kind of R&B soul type of stuff. So I really only knew "Smooth Operator." I would say overall that I did like this. I think that some of this kind of faded to like kind of being background music, particularly the slower songs. But a song like "Hang On to Your Love," I like that groove. There's some funk guitar, or bass lines that are happening in here, that I kind of that found myself getting down to a little bit. So. I liked her voice. She's got there's something very calming about, and relaxing about listening to this. It's definitely a different listening experience to Husker Du. And that was kind of nice, it's, for a genre, again, that's not for me, I could see why this, this seems similar. I was thinking as well as, Lionel Richie, when we covered him several weeks ago, that this is kind of like maybe more of a peeling type of sound that would cross, different generations and people and ethnicities and stuff like that. That it's just it's a very kind of like that easy listening sound that I could see why it would be popular on radio, why it would be playing in department stores or whatever. It's just, it's nice background music. But there were times where I was listening to it and I was like, no, I kind of, I'm into this groove. I like this. I remember I liked Cherry Pie. I liked When Am I Going to Make a Living? Were other songs that kind of stood out to me a little bit. So I wouldn't say that I loved it, and it's not like probably something that I would go back to. But what I think, kind of going through this podcast and being forced in a way to listen to these, different genres that I'm not as familiar with, I think I am appreciating them more. I'm less likely to just turn it off right away if I'm just flipping through the radio and I hear something like this. If I'm looking for more, what my standard, go-to music would be. I think that I am more open-minded to stuff like this. So I mean, no reason not to, it's not nothing earth shattering, but it was just kind of a nice little palate cleanser, like I said, to what we did before. And, it's probably a thumbs in the middle, I would say. I don't know if I would be like, oh, I love this record, but it was definitely decent. It was enjoyable. So, it's a nice little change of pace.
I thought it was going to be a precursor to Warrant's Cherry Pie. I thought this was the original.
That was
This is.
But
not
who did Cherry Pie better, Josh? Warrant or Sade?
Unfortunately, I didn't really like this album that much. I felt bad too because this was the only female artist this week, and
Josh, you hate women.
I was, yeah.
I thought that was my role with Jody Mitchell, but now you...
Notorious woman hater.
Right.
Josh.
I like Sade's voice. I think she has a great
Yeah.
voice. This album is really all about kind of a sexy, casual vibe. It is reminiscent of kind of like the Tom Waits vibe that we talked about with his album. You can picture her like in a bar or a jazz bar or something singing with a jazz band. That's
It's like a late night jazz bar that's across the street with a totally different demographic of people than the Tom Waits bar
has
across
the smoothest voice ever, and the other person has the least smooth voice ever. So.
But I just meant the type of bar.
I see what you're saying. It's like a late night kind of smoky bar atmosphere. That's where they stop.
That's going to be a I'm springing this guys on you now, but this is a new category when we get to the end of the 80s, but best night album, and this is a night album for sure.
I've been banging that drum since the 60s.
I
was nuts. I don't stay up that late. I don't know. Now you've come around to night album.
Well, now
John, you're banging drums.
He's banging something.
Yeah.
But I'm just picking up the night vibe now, I guess. It is jazzy for sure.
Yeah.
The saxophone comes in. That's a prominent instrument on here. What I didn't respond to was it was a fairly repetitive within the songs. The songs were too long for me. There's a lot of space in the song. They really are trying not just to capitalize on Sade's voice, but also the instruments that are backing her, and that's where it kind of gets to that jazzy feel or club feel. They stretch the songs out. It reminded me of kind of what Luther Vandross did on his album in terms of stretching it out and highlighting kind of his voice and just the feel of that as well. So unfortunately, that kind of the length of each song really kind of made me bored after a while, and also too kind of the themes of the songs. It's really just about love and romance and kind of variations on all of that. I didn't really get too much beyond that, or picking up on that. The song Sally, I was listening to the lyrics on that. I was like, who is this woman? Who is Sally? I don't know. I can't figure her out. She's simultaneously influential and important, and I don't know.
Well,
it was just
she's
a
a lot of things. Yeah.
Yeah.
She saved all those young men. She's
Yes.
doing our dirty work. It's like,
I guess she's a
yeah.
prostitute. So.
Yes.
And
That was how I read it, my friend.
yeah. I mean, that's what it was. But and then Why Can't We Live Together? I'm pretty sure it's the exact same keyboard chord as the Phil Collins Genesis song from one of In the Air Tonight, or one of the songs on that album. But
Wait, it sounds like In the Air Tonight.
there's a keyboard like part, or whatever the keys that they use on that is exactly the same.
The tone, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like something I picked up on. But yeah, unfortunately, I was hoping, I don't know what I was hoping for. I really didn't have any expectations. I didn't even realize Smooth Operator was on here until we started listening to it. So, I mean, that is the standout track for me. There wasn't necessarily like a deep cut on here that was like, oh, this is also good. I think the other single was Your Love Is King, which is I think I'd heard before, but also I found it funny that she, in Hang On To Your Love, she uses the lyric Hand in Glove, and we listened to the Smiths this week with Hand in Glove. So
Look at that.
I don't know if that's unintentional coincidence, but yeah, it's I guess, Matt said it was a change of pace, and it was that, but it wasn't really. I think I'd listen to Tom Waits again over this album. So.
Oh, well, I would too. I mean, that's
I'm just again thematically, like kind of the vibe that it was giving off. I found that album more interesting.
It's absolutely more interesting. Yes, I would agree.
I feel like I'm in a completely different space than you guys.
You are.
I mean, normally there's like
That's
a
normally
lot
the
of
case,
albums-
isn't it? I mean,
well, no, this week for the most part we've kind of been in the same lane and kind of agree with each other. I have a like completely different, like even the examples you guys were using, I don't necessarily know if I see it the same way. And not that anybody's wrong, right? I got a very different. To me, I found this album, while it is in that easy listening genre, I found it to be a much more complex and appealing version of that. It's like high-end easy listening to me. And there's things that like weren't referenced here that I think are that really like it's hard to not hear this and not say something like Steely Dan, because to me, like that's a little bit of like the lane that this is in, right? Like when they're at their best, right? It's like easy listening in a way that has a little bit more complexity. Now, things that weren't mentioned that I want to mention. The saxophone is a very appealing instrument to me, and it's a sultry saxophone that often starts off the tracks that I think really aids in this. Sade's voice is so smooth and appealing to me. That is really appealing, and I like the narrative nature of the songs. Like I enjoyed listening to the songs and the storytelling nature of them. And whether it be Frankie's First Affair or Sally or Why Can't We Live Together, even like Smooth Operator, right? These are all they're about love, but they're also about love played the wrong way, right? Or like love that's dangerous or seductive and appealing, but also you have to be careful of it a little bit. You know what I mean? Because of, playing with fire element of it, and that's a thematic thing. This is an album that a night album, I hear what you're saying. I think this is an album that like context is key, because in the right context, this is an easy thumbs up for me. But at other times, this would not be an album I would put on. It's kind of, I find like, it's like when you're in a relaxed state or in an island or you're winding down, appealing. When you're like contemplative or processing, emotional like relationship feelings, appealing. Certainly Sade's voice lends itself to a specific type of lovemaking, I'd say, that would be in there as well. Like these are all contexts, right? That like that she's, to me, uniquely, in terms of what we listen to, easy listening, like really appealing in that. So I made it a point to listen to it in context and out of context, because I knew what I was getting, because Sade like is well known for having one of the smoothest voices ever. So it's like, okay, let me listen to it in a complete context where it works and a complete context where it doesn't work as much, right? And it does. It like the album, when I listened to it in the right context, was an easy thumbs up, and the album where I listened to it in the wrong context, it was like background music, right? And it really did vary that much. Like, and my presence with it varied depending on the context I listened to. And there's been other albums like that. I use Scott 4 by Scott Walker, that Nightfly album by Donald Fagen. There's a bunch of albums that I think like have this same contrast depending on when you listen to it and where you listen to it. What was another one? I know you guys went Tom Waits, which is such a bizarre. I know what you're saying, but like, I don't see them in any way operating in the same.
Josh
clubs
went
or having
Tom
the
Waits.
same-
Tom
well, I'm just
Waits.
saying. Like,
I did not go Tom
I know
Waits.
what Josh just said, but like, there's no overlap to me between the lanes they're in. Like, I think it's more like the Donald Fagen thing where we talked about like the guy, doing, and also the other thing that you might be able to compare it to is jazz. I'd say there's a jazzy element, and like sometimes jazz works in the right context and sometimes it doesn't, and certainly the saxophone goes in there. There's an island component too, which I think is why one of the context is like vacation. Like you could see like listening to this on like the deck somewhere with like a cool breeze, just staring out sort of at the ocean and thinking about love's lost or loves that you have, or like life, and just nothing in particular but everything in particular kind of is what this is. So yeah, I did enjoy this album, but I think we've talked it too. Like I know, Matt, you described this as not necessarily being your lane. I think it's more my lane, this type of music. not always easy listening, but sort of the R&B island sort of sensibility does veer more in. And I hate to be trite, right, or use played out terms and stuff, but it is hard to describe Sade without saying it's a vibe, and that's so overused, but it is.
Right.
I mean, like, if you're gonna use it, right, I'll use it on this. I will use it to say Sade is a vibe, because if I'm gonna use it, it's gonna be in this album and this sound, right? So there's my sort of 2 cents.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I
Go ahead, Josh.
I was gonna say, I think too, I don't listen to music to decompress, and I think that's kind of what people do.
Really?
Or a lot of people do. Yeah, I when I listen to music, I
mean, I don't exclusively, but like,
right.
It's not my go-to thing, and I think so. That's why I kind of always respond to albums more that have more energy and
well, this has
feel
energy.
more alive.
It has a different.
Yeah.
It has energy, but like it's maybe.
Yeah, but I would never
subtle.
I don't think I'd ever put on this album just to kind of like have it on, if that makes sense.
Even in
as
certain
background
contexts, like at night, like if you're stressed, you know what I mean? If it was 10 o'clock and you're sort of by yourself and.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'd rather just be in silence ultimately.
Wow, okay.
So,
well, that's good though. It's a way
yeah.
to learn a little bit about how we process music. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's part of the reason sometimes I don't respond to these albums.
I never. Wow. No, that explains a lot. Like I definitely you listen to music sometimes to decompress. I mean, that's one of the great to me. That's one of the great things about music is that there's something for every mood. Different depending on how I'm feeling or where I'm at or the time. There's times to listen to an album and other times not to. And some albums you can listen to whenever. But that's interesting. Yeah. Which would make sense. I mean, yeah, if you're pretty much primarily listening to music for more upbeat, energetic, feelings and sounds, this is probably not going to do that for you. I didn't pick up. Go ahead, John.
I also listen to music sometimes to evoke a feeling that doesn't come as easy to me. Like I wouldn't describe myself as someone who has like effortless passion, right? Like I wish I was, but it's just it's something that's manufactured for me. Yeah, but you know what I'm saying? But like when you listen to someone who has effort, like I can appreciate music for like amping up something that I can get into things like anger or intensity or even like despair like much easier, right? But like something like an easy passion in the context of a romantic relationship or a pain from a relationship ending, right? Or feeling wronged in that context, or a relaxation that does it. Like I sometimes like to appropriate that feeling from someone and feel like, I don't want to say voyeuristic, but like that is a little bit of what I get out of music. I don't know if that makes sense, guys, but like I almost feel like even though I can't get there easy, I like the idea of like almost jumping into a persona, right? Mm-hmm. Where like there's this and music takes me there in a way. If I was just like you said, Josh, sitting in silence or trying to intellectualize what it's like, or trying to manufacture it, you just can't, right? Like some things they just come easier for certain people, especially like the sensory realm, you know what I mean? Which isn't always my easiest realm to be in, and music kind of gives me the ability to connect there in a way that doesn't just come in a garden variety way. Mm-hmm. And I think Sade sort of taps into that, I should say, for me. I don't know if that gives context, Josh, of how I do the decompression.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Yeah, and mine's usually just I don't know. It's just how the music sounds, and
I feel like you're always listening to music, Matt. Like you when you say you listen to albums, you always have them, on in the background and stuff, even if you're not like consciously listening to them. And that's what I do.
I all the time. I need to at work, I pretty much always need something in the background. Like I almost if it's too quiet, I go all right, I'm not I don't mind quiet, but I need to be more intentional about that. But generally speaking, I'm much more comfortable having something on in the background for sure. I didn't think of the Donald Fagen or the Steely. I mean, I mentioned Steely Dan having a similar intro with their songs with Smooth Operator. But yeah, that makes sense, Sean. I see where you're going with this. I definitely like this better. I like this. I would listen to this before the Nightfly again. I think that there was certain aspects. I thought this was more of a consistent listen for me, as opposed to that. But yeah, I can see that as well. And yeah, we're going to learn more about her because it looks like I didn't see that we're going to cover her in a proper episode with Promise. So actually, yeah. So we're going to do some more Sade. Where does the SH come in? Like Sade? Like it's Sade. That's how it's spelled. It's like Sade.
Well, she's
most
British.
Decidedly not Shade. So.
It's not, or just Sade. Where's the H come in? Like I don't understand
Sade.
that.
Well, see, Matt, there's this
Sade.
thing where there's like different cultures and they say sounds different ways. And you
right, but where does that come from?
That,
what culture? What culture throws this?
Well,
throws
she's
the H
Nigerian born.
So it's a Nigerian. Okay, so it's Niger. See, there's an answer to it. It's a Nigerian thing. So that's fine.
I don't know if anybody was questioning that, though. I don't think there's a large amount of... I mean, maybe when you're young, right, and you see it, you say, is that pronounced Sade, like Jade? And then you get told, well, no, it's Sade, because that's what she said.
That's what it is,
that's
right.
what it is, right. And
no, I'm right.
I don't think a lot of
hey.
people are like, I don't know if I agree with this pronunciation. People just accept it, right,
No, I accept it. I was just
Rihanna,
I was just kind of questioning the origins of it because I was like, I don't know where that's coming. I'm not going to be like, no, I'm calling her Sade because that's how it's spelled. Like I'm not going to that.
I reject your pronunciation of your own name. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I want to say Kanye West or Rihanna, you know what I mean? I'm going to do it because.
Hey, he's Ye now. He's Ye now. Even I know that.
I just was going for ones that could be either way. So.
Also, I saw that Sade is described as sophistopop, which is
oh wow,
not something that we've really discussed or
because they're
explored.
Image.
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like new romantic when you think about it. Like it's the same thing, right?
Yeah.
It's like
isn't Duran new romantic?
Well,
at times, yeah.
Yes, the short blurb that Wikipedia has on sophistopop says that Roxy Music's Avalon is considered the first sophistopop album.
All right.
There you go. So that's
or often cited as.
Yeah, Roxy Music, like Duran, the style. It's adult music. It's designed for like adults to listen to. In oftentimes it's in their houses, right, or at parties, or even just to evoke a vibe that it's not teenager music. You know what I mean? Like you don't throw on Sade and Roxy Music there. You kind of almost have to be a little bit older to the sophisticated.
No, Roxy. I don't know. It's interesting. Roxy Music, I could see that. Duran. I don't know. That seems like it is.
Duran's is a little bit more image. You're right. It's that's not fully in. You know what I mean? It's kind of. Yeah,
there's
you're
blending.
There.
There's the Venn diagrams kind of cover each other at times. Yeah, so
So